Chapter 10. The Proposal. How different Thornfield Hall had become. There wasn't one room that stood empty. You couldn't walk down a single corridor without coming across some lady's maid or some gentleman's valet. Each evening the drawing room, the dining room, the library, and the parlor were filled with guests in splendid clothes. Hundreds of jewels reflected the candlelight like stars. Amidst all of this, I sat silent and unnoticed in the corner, observing Mr. Rochester court Miss Ingram. Reader, it was like torture. At last, the guests left. I did not see Mr. Rochester for a few days, and it began to seem as though he deliberately avoided me. Among the servants, who were always the first to know the gossip, nothing was said about his future marriage. I tried to find out from Mrs. Fairfax whether he had proposed, but she was mute on the subject. One evening I took a walk in the garden. By a large chestnut tree, there was a bench on which I sat to watch the sunset. I happened to like that particular spot because it was in an area where the ground sloped, and no one could see me. The air smelled of jasmine. I breathed in deeply and smelled another scent, familiar and strange at once. Suddenly, my heart started beating fast. It was the smoke from Mr. Rochester's cigar. How could it be? I hadn't heard the footsteps. I wanted to get up and run, but since I couldn't see the slope, I might run into him. I was determined that the best thing to do was walk up slowly. There was thick shrubbery and trees all around, and, if I made no noise, I could walk by him unnoticed. But he saw me. It seemed as if he had been waiting for me. "It's such a lovely night," he said. "One doesn't want to stay inside." I lowered my head, trying to hide the agitation on my face. "Jane," he said, "there's something I want to talk to you about. I've decided to send Adele away to school." "I understand, sir. Now that you'll be married and you'll want to have children of your own." "Quite so. I understand you won't be needing my services anymore. I'll advertise for a new position right away." "Does that upset you, Jane?" "Yes, sir. I'll be sorry to go." "Sorry because you will miss Thornfield?" "Sorry because I'll miss you, sir." I said it without thinking, because it came from the heart. Tears flooded my eyes, but I was unable to quiet my sobbing. "Why would you want to leave me, then?" he asked. "Want to? You said I must." "I said no such thing," he said. "I want you to stay at Thornfield. I want you to be with me, forever." "What about your wife, sir? What about your marriage?" "What wife?" he said. "What marriage?" "Miss Ingram, sir." "Miss Ingram," he said. "What do I have to do with Miss Ingram? It's you I want to marry, Jane, you. Will you be mine? Say yes, quickly." "Do you truly love me, sir?" "I do. I swear it." "Yes, I will marry you, sir." "Edward," he said. "Call me Edward." He kissed me over and over. He held me in his arms tightly, saying softly, Jane, my darling Jane." I pushed him away. "If you love me, if you knew you loved me, then why did you court Miss Ingram? Why did you let everyone believe you two intended to marry?" "I wanted to make you jealous," he said. "I wanted to make sure you loved me." "Oh, Edward, that was so unfair to Miss Ingram." "Unfair," he said. "She didn't care a whit about me, only pretended. All Miss Ingram ever liked about me was my wealth." I laid my head on his shoulder and smiled. "Let's get back," he said. "Let's go home, my love." Home, I thought, home! Thornfield Hall was going to be my home.